Well, welcome to all of you. We're here today to present our team project for the IOC on sport presentation. So I will first introduce the team. It's Leo from Brazil, JK from South Korea, and Nancy from Taiwan. So sport presentation, what is it? According to the IOC Technical Manual on Sport, sport presentation refers to the way sport is presented to the spectators in the venues. It aims at engaging and educating and also inspiring the live audiences while at the same time enhancing the athletes' competition. Sport presentation can be complemented by outside the venue activations. So for our team project, we set two main objectives. The first one being to define the main or the key spectator motivators to attend live events, and from those deduct the motivators that are actually that can be impacted by sport presentation. The second one was to provide a concrete and realistic set of recommendations to the IOC, to the client, that they can then enhance the level of guidance to the local organizing committees on sport presentation. So before going into the first objective, I would first like to outline the scope of our project. So with regard to the audience, we looked at, or we included all Olympic ticket holding spectators. For the sports, it was about all the Olympic sports, so meaning 28 summer and 7 winter sports. And for the venue or the location, we looked at sport presentation inside the venues, and also the sport activations outside the venue, so outside the fields of play. So the first objective, what are these key motivators? Well, to answer this question, the team collected data from different angles. We looked at literature, we conducted interviews, and we also went on site visits. So for the literature, we mainly focused on the evolution of mega events and also the intrinsic motivators and values that spectators get out of attending those events. The interviews, we gained a lot of insights by conducting interviews with some very top executive IOC members, also representatives from the international organizations, sport organizations, to see what the key role is that sport presentation plays in their events, and also to see the best practices, but at the same time also the improvement areas. For the field visits, we covered quite a few. You here have the overview. Just to elaborate, we visited different size of events, small versus larger, regional or national versus international events, and also we included Olympic versus non-Olympic sports and winter disciplines versus summer disciplines. So from all the data that we collected, we then established our framework of key motivators, which was then the basis for our final recommendations or findings for the IOC. So the key motivators that we deducted are aesthetics, the social interaction, and self-identification. Giving a bit more background on or details on these three motivators. The aesthetics motivator refers to the artistic characteristics and also the elements of drama in events. Then the social interaction is about the bonding and sharing opportunities. And self-identification refers to the feeling of being part of an event and also to identify with the sport, the culture, and the athletes, of course. So with a bit more scientific representation of our framework, again, aesthetics, self-identification, and social interaction are the key motivators for spectators to attend, which should also and definitely be integrated and covered through sport presentation. Thank you.
All right, and now we go into our second project objective of providing the concrete recommendations. Before I hop into our recommendation on 1 to 6, this diagram illustrates where our recommendations lies in accordance to our key motivators. So for example, our recommendation number 1 and 6 lies in the middle of the diagram, meaning that it covers all 3 key motivators. And this is a diagram illustrating the roadmap of what I'm going to take you through from recommendation 1 to 6. All right, without further ado, this is recommendation number 1, Master of Ceremonies. So you might be asking, we already see Master of Ceremonies, also known as MCs, at the Olympic Games. So what exactly are we recommending you? Concretely, specifically, we recommend having an MC that is strong, has a strong culture fit to the sport that he's MCing, meaning that he has a deep knowledge of the sport that he's MCing. So just to give you a little bit of context and background on how we and why we came up with this recommendation, as you can see, hopefully you can see on the photo, this is from our site event visit at Verbier Freeride World Tour. In case you don't know what this event is, it's where the free skiers and the snowboard free riders compete for the world champion in their respective gender and discipline. So as you can see on this photo, the guy with the microphone, the MC, he's authentic to the sport. He looks like he plays the sport, he has a deep knowledge of the sport himself, and because of that, he was able to interact closely and engage the spectators and skiers alike on the top of the slope, close nearby the competition venue. So this is what we recommend for the Olympic Games to have an MC that has a background in the sport. Perhaps he or she plays the sport himself or herself, so that he can get the buy-in of the spectators. Our second recommendation is to have music, food, and theatrical entertainment. Specifically, inside the venue, we recommend having a live DJ or music play that is fit to the sport culture, as well as an interactive mascot and offering cheering tools to the spectators and audience. So specifically on the music, we recommend for the sports that has a strong wealth of history and heritage behind the sport, such as equestrian. I just take equestrian for example. We don't recommend the DJ playing music that is hip hop or rap, that kind of thing. So that the DJ should know about the sport himself or herself, so that he can play music that appeals to the particular segment of audience that equestrian usually attract. Secondly, the interactive mascot. So taking our best practice from Field Hockey World Cup in Netherlands. If you can see on the photo, the Starkey, the mascot, he was at all times accompanying the MC, the cheerleaders, to interact, to play games with the spectators, as well as going around the arena, going on the stands and interacting directly with a particular audience or whatnot. But what we point out is that because he's interactive, he was able to be the center of attention, not just with the people he interacted, but around the whole stadium. He had the attention of the whole stadium, like spectators across this whole stadium. And another example from Atletissima that was just held in Lausanne a couple of months ago, the mascot there, he was not only interacting with the spectator, but also playing around with the staff, helping out, setting up the venues, interacting with the athletes, and the MC alike. So wherever he went in the huge stadium, he had the attention of the spectators. So this is what we recommend for the Olympic Games to do. Lastly, the cheering tools. This is taking our best practice, hopefully you can see the photo, from Davis Cup from Geneva, the tennis event in Geneva. What they did there was they offered us paper claps that had tennis cues and tennis terms written on the paper in the claps for the spectator to leverage during the game, so they were able to feel like they are a part of the game themselves, so they can engage more during game time. And moving on to what we recommend outside the venue is to offer cultural diversity in the food, as well as the theatrical performances and music that is offered. What we mean by this is taking, again, an example, that a best practice we picked up in the Field Hockey World Cup in the Netherlands. What they did throughout the whole period of the World Cup was each day they had a country theme. So for example, as you can see on this day was a theme of China. So they offered Chinese performances, a human dragon performing in the venue, outside the venue, sorry. and as well as having a local DJ playing their Chinese music, for example. So put that into context of the next Winter Games, PyeongChang 2018. For example, we recommend, let's say, putting the whole period of the Winter Games on the first day to invite all the international audience into South Korea. What they can do is perhaps have a South Korean Day on the first day that offers traditional Korean food, having a traditional theatrical entertainment group that is dressed in traditional Korean dress, and have a local DJ that plays popular Korean music. So that this plays in the notion of the Olympic Games of not only teaching, not only allowing the spectators to pick up the sports, to learn about the sports, but also in the cultural diversity that the Olympic Games entail. And moving on, our third recommendation is to offer educational programs in all different formats. In the formats of handouts, short videos that could be shown on the big screens, as well as playing interactive games such as a quiz contest. So specifically on the handouts, we recommend having multi-language handouts that has simple rules of the games written on it and placed at the entrance of the sport arena for each sport that the spectator can pick up on their way in, so that in the dual time, so we call it, leading up to game time, they can learn about the game and be able to engage further and enjoy more during game time. Short videos is best practice we got while interviewing the London 12 sports presentation head. What they did, and the best practice we picked up from London 12 was they had short videos that had educational info, simple rules of the games they're about to see, shown on the big screens inside the venue, 30 minutes leading up to game time. And this is what we recommend as well. Another thing that we recommend doing before game time, the dual time before game time, is to have the MC play some quiz about the rules of the game, so that they can incentivize and encourage the spectators on site to read the handouts and to learn from the rules of the games from the short videos that are shown on the screens. Our fourth recommendation is to offer trial opportunities for the spectators. Concretely, what we recommend is to set up multiple trial zones in the vicinity outside the arena, close to the sports arena, of the sport that is being played inside the arena. What we haven't seen and what we haven't observed but we recommend from our best practices within this project is to have not only the trial zone set up, but to also have former or current athletes and or ambassadors, popular ambassadors of the sport, to hold workshops to incentivize, to encourage the spectators to come and trial the games themselves. And for the game specifically, that we're not able to set up the trial zones of, what we recommend is to set up a trial zone in the format of gaming, so that such as Wii Sport, so that at least the spectators after the game or before the game, they are able to have a feel of the game, even though they're not able to pick up a stick or throw a ball themselves. Our fifth and second last recommendation is to embed and integrate innovative technologies within the game. So this is taking the best practice from our desk research from the American major leagues. So for example, the NBA, the Indiana Pacers, have already adopted this trending technology of Google Glass into their game. So what we recommend doing is at the Olympic Games, you can equip the athletes and or officials and have the video or imaging set up to be shown on the big screens inside or even further outside the venues, to allow the spectators to see the game from a different perspective. And what better to see it from the perspective of the athletes on the fields of play. And finally, our last but not least, sixth recommendation is to have, for the Olympic Games, to have a comprehensive application in the function of interactive, educational, and practical. So in the interactive sense, We recommend integrating the gaming aspect into the application, such as fantasy games, so that the spectators, before or after they watch the game, they are able to further leverage their inspiration and whatever they picked up from the games to play further, experience the games on the app. And as we all know, social media is the trend right now. So right now at the games, if you want to share something, like something, or comment on something, you have to log on to your respective platforms, such as Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. However, what we recommend is to have an integrated platform on this app, where the spectators are able to just with a click, with a comment, with a share away, they can share their moments at the Olympic Games with their respective friends and family who are not in the venue. Okay, this is the last one. Last function is to highlight what we want to recommend is, after interviewing with the IOC executives, we realized that one of the challenges that the Olympic Games are having is to compete with the spectators that rather stay at home and watch the games from their comfortable couch as to going to the games themselves. So what we recommend integrating the function on this app is to allow the spectators to select different camera angles to see the game or the replays of the games. And this is to counterattack that challenge. In the aspect of educational, we not only recommend offering educational programs on this app for the spectators to learn about the rules of the games or the history of the games, but also integrating the aspect of health, so such as anti-doping or sustainability, which is a trend right now. Lastly, on the practical end, we recommend integrating the function of providing the practical information on the venue, such as for the spectator to see how they can get from the city to the venue. And once they get to the venue, where the bathrooms are, where the food is, where the entertainment are, they can do it just with a click away on the app. Lastly, what we want to highlight to recommend on this app to integrate the function of is to integrate the e-commerce function, meaning that for the spectators, they can buy the tickets to the sports venues, as well as once they're on the stands, they can order food, buy food, or souvenirs right on their seat at their stands. And this is taking the best practice, again, from the major leagues in the US, which is already implementing this function. And that concludes our recommendation and our presentation. So we wish success to the next Olympic Games, and thank you.